glad to be with you here on FaithWorks Live. Wow. We take for granted sometimes when we wake up in the morning and breathe fresh air and see the sunshine, that in many parts of the world, that's not the reality. And I think many of us here in the States were shocked when we saw war break out in Israel. We've been watching that very closely. We've been praying. I know in our family, especially, we've been praying for that situation, that peace will come swiftly, that justice will be done, and that the violence will be stopped, that there would be peace in the land of Israel once more, and especially so for us, for our family, because we have some dear loved ones that are on the ground in Israel and just happen to be there at this specific time. So yay for timing. My dear Matt and Miranda are able to chat with us and to give us an update on what's going on. They are on the ground in Israel as we speak. And guys, I'm so glad that we could connect with you, and I'm glad that you're safe.
Yes. Yep. We are. We feel very safe. We're in our hotel room right now, but we left the hotel earlier today and yesterday. We went out a couple of places. There's not a lot open. The place is pretty shut down, locked down, but everyone around that we went and saw is extremely grateful for to see us. I think it means a lot to them that not all Americans are running and hiding and are scared to be here, because this is their country that they love. And this is very, very hard on them for many reasons. So we've had people crying, just grateful that we went to their location today or whatever.
And you're there. Let me back up so we catch up on the story. You're there with, is it a church tour of Israel?
It's a faith-based tour. It's a guy who has been doing this tour for 30 years. He's based out of Texas. And we found out about it through a friend who's gone and highly recommended him. He does things differently, but he has a ton of contacts all throughout Israel. He's very well known here. The bus driver is a Jew who's been with him for 30 years, or not the bus driver. The bus driver is a Muslim.
Our bus driver is a Muslim. We have a guide who is a local Jew. He has all of the contacts around here. He knows exactly where to go, what to do. So, we have a Christian, we have a Muslim, and we have a Jew, all working together while we're here on this tour. So it's been fascinating to see, and everybody gets along.
And we couldn't ask to be in a safer place where God has put us when this happened, logistically, and with, I think, any safer of a tour group and tour leaders.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a little bit of that experience, because you're there looking at biblical sites and all of the rich history that's in Israel. And Matt, did you say you were in the Garden of Gethsemane when you started hearing rockets fall? What was that like?
Yeah, so we were originally we came through the Mount of Olives, and we were overlooking the Temple Mount, looking at the eastern gate of the Temple Mount and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the air raid sirens started going off, and we could see the rocket trails as they were tracing out over Jerusalem. And subsequently then the rockets would be taken out by the Iron Dome. So this continued for
hours.
Hours of time. So that that was it was very comforting to know and to see the Iron Dome in action, and the fact that we were safe. There was no concern in our eyes from even being that close to that kind of a military activity.
So when we left that morning, they knew about Tel Aviv getting attacked, but of course they thought, no way would we. We're fine. This is Jerusalem. The Golden Dome is here. Like, they're not going to attack. And so then when we were out, that started happening, and you could see the shock in everybody's faces. It was very unexpected. But we ended up having to come back after a couple of hours. It was pretty chaotic in the streets with everything going on.
Yeah, that area of Jerusalem is called the Muslim Quarter. So, the fact that, we were in an area that was predominantly Muslim, and, the call to prayer came over the loudspeakers, the Muslim call to prayer came over while we were, at the Mount of Olives, and then, moving to the Garden of Gethsemane. And they called for the Palestinians to take up arms, knives, axes, anything they could.
Wow.
To, do what Hamas was asking them to do.
So this was over every speaker that hits over all the city,
all Jerusalem. So at that point, we decided that it was best to move back to a Jewish controlled area.
Well, and I think at that point, the police had ordered people to go back. Schools were being let out. Everybody had to pick up their kids.
Yep.
They were going to lock down the city.
Yep.
So
so we moved back to our compound, and that's where we stayed the rest of the day.
Yeah. When you say chaos in the streets, what did that look like? I mean, I don't want you to go into uncomfortable territory necessarily, but just what are you seeing?
I mean, just a lot of horn honking and the siren going off and missiles going off, and everybody's like, you have a lot of people yelling and different things. Our group was very calm. People have sent footage back or whatever, and everybody's like, wow, your group is so calm and laid back. How can that be possible? And I really attribute a lot of that to the people that are in our group and our group leaders. They're faith-based, not fear-based. And so to be driven by fear and get panicky is the absolute worst thing to do. And nobody in our group did that.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember that, this terrorist organization, Hamas, that's how they propagate what they want done. They want chaos.
Yeah.
They want to create terror. And the only way to fight against that is to go about your daily life normally, and to not allow fear to control you. That is what the devil wants. That is what Hamas wants. And we aren't going to succumb to that.
And that's part of the reason we've had a couple people be like, you're still touring, like you went to the Dead Sea yesterday, or we did a couple things today. And that's a lot of the reason why our tour guide wanted us to, is because the people in Israel want peace. They don't want to succumb to Hamas and his eagerness for everybody to be in constant fear, and for us to take a stance and stay here and to go and see things is a huge proclamation to them.
And we know as Christians that we are, our faith, our salvation is secure in Jesus. For me personally, I don't fear what this organization is trying to propagate. I know that my salvation is in Christ, Jesus Christ, my Lord. And that's not going to waver.
Amen. That's easy to say, when everything is comfortable in our Midwestern homes and everything's happy and good. And it's when the hard stuff happens, the unexpected, that you never thought you'd be in that situation. And that's one of the challenges for me, is coming from a largely peaceful existence to think about warfare and war zone. And as you mentioned, the Israeli people have experienced this multiple times. They see this is a fact of life, that there are forces that are out there that seek to wipe Israel off the map. And so they, I think, have become just sort of accepted the fact that, we have enemies out there, but we've got good defense and we've got a good, strong army. And I mean, in America, we can kind of relate to that. We don't really fear any enemies for the most part. I think what shocks people the most right now is the unexpected nature, the on all fronts attack, and the fact that this was much more coordinated than it seems, than Hamas has been in the past. And it's been much more brutal and much more effective because of that.
Yeah,
absolutely. What they're doing in Gaza, When Hamas came in and started, attacking the kibbutzes there, what they were doing to the women and the children is absolutely brutal. It's despicable what they are doing. There is absolutely no excuse for it. So that is not something that we're used to in our Western culture. But this is a terrorist organization, once again, that is, committing these atrocities.
Mm-hmm.
They have no reason for it. They hate Jews. That's it. And so to see that senseless, needless horror, I can't understand it. And I don't think those people have any hearts. And that's scary.
It's so difficult to think about the enemy, the depth of the hatred of the enemy, right? And the people that have been taken captive to do his will, the ultimate enemy of our souls. And he's all about destruction. He's all about fear. Like you said, guys, it's an impressive attitude to have when it's going on all around you. Like I said, it's easy to say in theory, but when you actually have to live it, I think that's when we understand the depth of our faith. And that in itself is a testimony, I think. The fact that there's a group of peaceful Christians that are there, seeing what they can do to help and encourage and strengthen, and not that it would be wrong to want to preserve your life and want to leave, necessarily. I'm not saying that, but just that you can make the choice to say, all right, how can I help serve you in that position? That's noteworthy.
It's been, I think I posted this on my Facebook when we were here, but before any of this happened, and I've said this, we were supposed to go on 2020 October for our 20th anniversary, and COVID happened, so it got canceled. So this is when we rescheduled it, and I felt that like God, as soon as we were with this group and we'd been there a couple of days, I'm like, God put us with this group for a reason. It's so different than any other group. It has been life-changing even before this. And the person who heads it, he's all about Israel. He supports Israel on so many different levels. That's why he has a lot of contacts in Israel, because he's well known for supporting them. And to see the truth that media in America does not show us, and then to see all this happen and transpire and be here, has been even more eye-opening. And I really feel like if we can help anybody realize that, as a group of us here, then that's why we're here.
Yeah. And just to touch on what you just said, obviously we're at the mercy of the information that comes out to us, but lots of times that information gets filtered. Just speaking as of,
we have seen so many people send us things, and other people, and we've looked it up and we're like, totally out of context. And so I can see how all of our family and friends are like so scared and worried, and I get it. But we're here and we can walk around in Jerusalem and feel safe. There's a lot going on in other areas, but media
clearly biased.
Yes.
Clearly biased.
What are some of the ways that you see that, and what should we know instead? So what is an example of some of that bias that you think we should correct?
Well, it's hard because like when we get back to the States, I'm gonna not know what's actually happening. Here we know the truth. If I'm going off of the news that I've seen from America, it's going to be really hard to distinguish what the truth is. I'm going to keep in contact with the people we know from here to know, but just don't feed into that fear. Like a couple of things they said was the Americans that were taken hostage and killed, which is very tragic. They were actually American Jews that lived at the kibbutz. They weren't tourists, but the way America portrayed it on the news was that they were captured and they were tourists and they were killed. And so we had family and friends like super panicky. It doesn't matter who it is that died. It was tragic, but they totally twisted it to seem something else that it wasn't. Just a lot of things like that.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's hard to know, like you said. But it's always important, I think, not to rush to be the first with something, because it seems like that's where a lot of the struggle starts, and the biases that are in place as well. One of the things that I've seen over and over again is people that have certain political perspectives, and they're putting that into the reporting on this situation. And they're saying, well, there's horrible things happening on all sides. And I said, okay, war is a horrible thing. And I am upset for anyone on either side that's caught in this that are innocent people. But there's a big difference between the army of Israel retaliating and defending their country, and a group of terrorists coming in and torturing women and children and kidnapping. And there's no equivalency there.
Correct. And if that were to happen in America, we would take care of that, and we would obviously condone that.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've heard, other people from America in the news already starting to make it sound like now Israel is going in and wiping out Gaza, and it's needless, and they're just retaliating and needlessly, and they're not. Gaza is ran by the Hamas, and they're heartless, and they won't stop. They need to be wiped out.
Mm.
And so not to believe the media on that stuff. I mean, you can talk a little bit better about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, a terrorist organization, there is no compromise with them. They have one goal in mind. And unfortunately, you cannot fight that kind of fire diplomatically.
Mm-hmm.
We have tried many, many times peacefully to work with them. But unfortunately, their soldiers understand, the Hamas soldiers, when they go in and start indiscriminately killing children on playgrounds, that you can't deal with that with just, handshakes.
Right.
So unfortunately, the IDF, they're going to go in, they're going to take them out, and they have to.
Mm-hmm.
To stop children being slaughtered. We cannot have that.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, even just in the knowledge that they're calling for the Palestinian people to side with them. So even though they live in Israel, they live in Jerusalem and in the cities in Israel, they're saying you should care more about this terrorist ideology. You should care more about that, and you should start killing, your neighbors, and pick up a knife and just start going at it. And I pray that they deny that. I pray that that's not happening. But that's the level of brutality that we're talking about. And you're right, you can't reason with that. You just can't. There's a level of evil there that has, basically you've been given over at that point to the evil of that. And if they seek death and destruction, that's the just recompense for their actions in order to keep everybody else safe. I also know that the Israeli army takes great pains to avoid civilian casualties. They're not just going in there and firing upon people indiscriminately, that they warn locations and saying, hey, we're going to attack this area. We need to clear out this area, get your families to safety. So they take great pain because they're in this situation and have been for a long time. And I think they exemplify from what I know, to be just warriors, which is a very hard thing.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They are trying, to be fair to the people who are the non-military people who are living in Gaza. Israel is surrounded on the north and the south, at least from Gaza and from Lebanon, by terrorist organizations. Hezbollah to the north, and Hamas to the western side. Right now, Hamas has manifested these atrocities. Hezbollah has not yet. We have seen the northern border with Lebanon, where Hezbollah is. They've got rockets in every house, but they are not moving into Israel at this point. No matter what has been said out in the Western news. They're not. But Israel has a very strong military presence there right now, to prevent that from happening.
And I think that it was important to realize that Israel is very strong in their army, but they are all about peace. So they're not going to jump the gun on anything. They do what they have to when they have to, and that's it.
Yeah, they are all about deterrence, in the north. Which is what I would expect out of a military power.
Yeah, well, we're continuing to pray for the entirety of the situation. We'll talk about that here in just a second. How have you been able to have conversations? I know it's everybody's scared. It's a time of great uncertainty, and there is fear around you, and you're rejecting that, and you're walking in faith instead. Have you been able to have conversations with the people in Israel about why you are so at peace, the peace that passes understanding?
We've haven't had direct, because it is somewhat offensive for us to go up to them and just start preaching the gospel to them or whatever. You're not going to get very far around here, but if you do that. So just our presence being here, they know we're Christians. They know we're from America. They know that our tour is faith-based, and us staying here and going and doing things in the city and in the community is a testimony in and of itself. It's like a huge thing. I mean, we went to the Garden Tomb today, and our 65-year-old tour guide that was there started, and she just started thanking us that we were there. She broke down. She said that over 300 tours have canceled already. Nobody was there. We had the place to ourselves almost. But they know that. I mean, we went out for coffee the other day, and I had people trying to buy me wine and chocolate and just thank you for staying here. Everybody's leaving. So to stay here and to tour isn't because we're going to have our fun no matter what's going on. It's making a statement, and everybody here knows that statement.
Yeah, and we need to realize that this is their 9/11. There hasn't been this level of Israelis lost to terrorism, for many years, decades. So this is their 9/11. This is their national crisis. So they're in sorrow right now. They are hurting people. So we're here to comfort them. We understand what they're having to go through. We've been through that, with our 9/11. So, we're here to help them and in any way that we can also.
The group that we're with, he's raised money, and he supports a volunteer IDF branch. And so he's already gone and bought extra cameras, extra batteries for walkie-talkies or whatever, stuff like that. Gone out and bought a ton more that they've called and been like, we really need this. They were in charge of one of the kibbutz going in and capturing some of the Hamas people. But so there's a lot of that going on too within our group and with our tour guide leader. So to be here for that is just, I know it sounds crazy that we're here. And yes, it will be nice to be in the US, but to be here for that is.
Yeah, the IDF on the ground, those soldiers, there came through a need for generators and a way for these soldiers to use their cell phones to communicate. So we went out, we bought solar powered battery packs for these soldiers to plug their phones into to recharge them. Inverter generators that are quiet, tactically quiet generators, so that these guys can operate efficiently, quietly on the front lines. This morning we went to a museum called the Friends of Zion, which is a Christian organization for Christians who can help Israel
It's like the Red Cross of America.
It really
It's a
is.
huge organization. The guy, it was another God thing. The founder flew in. He couldn't get here. It's the founder. He's been up for a Nobel Peace Prize. He worked with George Bush. And he met with us. He wasn't even supposed to be there. We ran into him. He knew we were a group there. We were the only group there. They opened for us.
Wow.
And we got to talk with him for a while. And the information he gave us, like, blows my mind.
Yeah. And, these kinds of organizations are helping Israel.
Yeah.
And these are faith-based Christian organizations,
yeah.
That are
boots on the ground, first aid.
Boots out there. They are, they are talking with the IDF about what they need. They set up, they house, they evacuate people who need help from the front lines. They are helping them in any way that they possibly can. So for people back home in the United States right now, who are looking for ways to help Israel in this conflict, that's one of the ways. Is go on the internet, look up the Friends of Zion, find them, contribute. They are helping the IDF. They are helping the evacuees, the people who are wounded. They are the hands. These are the hands and feet of God, who are making it happen right here in Israel.
Yeah, if it was in the U.S., we would do a GoFundMe or donate to the Red Cross. This is Israel. And so this is what we would highly recommend. We were there, we donated, we talked. It is the Red Cross of Israel. It's a huge organization that are boots on the ground, hands-on completely. I mean, they've worked with our government even now. Very legitimate organization. Their FOZ is the initials as well. So you can look up FOZ or Friends of Zion, and it's in Jerusalem.
Yep.
Excellent. I will find that link. I'll put it in the podcast links down below, so everyone can click on that. Friends of Zion. That's a great idea. I'll do exactly what you said, Matt. Great suggestion. I know that you guys have a lot to do to accomplish today. But before we close out the conversation, because that's always what we want to do as Christians in America, when we hear about, wars, destruction, need, chaos anywhere, we want to be part of the solution and we want to help. So I really appreciate that suggestion of the Friends of Zion organization. And I know that our prayers are powerful. And people are praying for Israel. So I'd love to hear how you're praying and ways that we can pray well for that situation.
Well, I mean, we're praying for the people that were impacted and affected, people who have had loss of life. And what is the count at? 2,000 something, 2,300 as of this morning, hundreds injured. I mean, the founder of Friends of Zion said that he expects it to be 3,000 by the end of the day because of people who are dying that were injured. There are still 125 people as of this morning, he said, that are in hostage. I mean, just think of that. If that were us, what prayers would we want and need? Well, we would pray for peace, for healing, for peace for the nation, for it to end, for those who are affected, and will be for a long time, for those still hurt and trying to recover, for they call it kibbutz. It's a community. It's a settlement. Yeah. People that got wiped out. And they went into houses and held up 3 months old and
shot them.
It's just killed them. Horrible. So just pray for the hearts of people here in Jerusalem too, that don't know God, that they can be impacted by this somehow. Even for us being here, I know that our tour guide said that things that we're doing and saying and being here can maybe somehow affect that. And they actually have another group that as of now are coming out, a full group of 40 people that will be here on Monday. And so they're going to just do what they can while they're here. So that will continue to go on too. So just prayers for that organization, that they can be impactful as well.
Now is the time to stand for life. For 50 years, Iowans for Life has been the longest standing nonprofit pro-life organization in Iowa, and they stand strong today as Pulse Life advocates. They believe in defending the defenseless, and that's what we need now, a new generation to value the sanctity of all human life from fertilization till natural death. They advocate at the Capitol, in classrooms, at events across the state of Iowa on abortion, on family planning, on physician-assisted suicide, euthanasia, basically every issue where the culture is so contrary to what God calls us to. They're standing in the gap as defenders of the defenseless, and they're a voice for the voiceless because they believe in the value of life. And if you do too, sign up for their newsletter and get involved today at pulseforlife.org. That's pulseforlife.org. In today's world, security has never been more vital. And at FaithWorks Live, we're proud to partner with VeriGuard Security. It's a professional physical security service, and they're really raising the bar in security and private investigations. Whether you need a team of professional officers to protect what you have worked hard to build, or their mobile security units for multiple properties or large locations, from business or corporate properties to your home or neighborhood. Perhaps you've got an event coming up. They secure quality security coverage for events large and small, because it's about peace of mind and protecting you, your family, your team, and your property. Settle for nothing less than the best when it comes to your security. You shouldn't have to compromise. When it comes to security, you can trust VeriGuard. Contact them today at verigard.us. That's VARA guard.us. For security service, you can trust VeriGuard. Thrilled to be joined by some very dear people to me, Matt and Miranda, on the ground in Israel. And there are some amazing things that are happening. I love to see how God works. And I think, right now we just see a tiny little piece of it. But soon, someday, we're going to see the curtain will be lifted, and we'll get to see the entire movie of God's grand story and how we get to play maybe one little piece of that. And there are amazing things that are happening, even in the middle of a war zone. And God is bringing people to him, as he always does, right? All of these things are to bring people to him. And Matt and Miranda, you were telling me that you've even seen some of that. The nations are coming to God, even in the middle of this.
Yeah, the other day we were at the Jordan River. We were at a place where, a lot of people are being baptized. And I saw people from all different nations. We even saw people from China who were there. These are people in their country who are persecuted for their faith. And they have come to the land of Israel, to the Jordan River. We saw this with our own eyes, being baptized, praising God. I only understood two words that they said.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah and Jesus.
Wow.
And our preacher baptized them. He had never met them before. They went into our group's line, and they said they came from China because they couldn't get baptized there. They weren't with a preacher. They weren't with anybody like that. They were totally on their own to come get baptized.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think, again, something for us to remember, that God is at work in the middle of all this to bring many, many people to him. That's so beautiful.
The peace of God surpasses all understanding. And I can't understand what's going through the minds of all the people who are down in Gaza right now. But this conflict will come to a close eventually. And then there is a time of healing. And we as Christians need to be those hands and feet that reach out to help these people get back on their feet. It doesn't matter whether they're Palestinian or if they're Jewish. We need to be there for everybody to show Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life. He is salvation. Mm-hmm. And we need to exemplify that.
Something similar, a little bit different, but I think at first it was just sort of a shock when all the bombs are going off. And we're like, oh, this is what this looks and sound like, like, oh my goodness. And then we got back to the hotel and sirens would go off. So we'd go into a designated area for safety.
Yeah.
And then we went to bed. And then it was a weird feeling going to bed, knowing that there was a call in Jerusalem to the terrorist to go and kill with whatever you had. Well, I mean, we didn't know what was going on. We felt secure, but we weren't out there. We didn't know.
Yeah.
So it was very easy to start thinking about what ifs. And I mean, we did think about what ifs.
Sure. How could you sleep?
Right. It's and bombs are going on, jet fighters flying overhead all night long. It was very different. And we hadn't been outside the walls yet. And so we didn't know if like they were out there ransacking houses. Like we had no idea. Mm-hmm. And so we could let our minds go there. And something that came to me and has been a huge thing to me, even and thinking about, are we going to be able to get out of here and go home? Even in those things is the song, I forget who's by, but I'm no longer a slave of fear. I am a child of God. That has been in my mind a lot. So there's so much truth to that. If we're a child of God, we are no longer a slave to fear. So last night it thundered and lightning. And I told Matt, I was laying there and I was like, okay, is that lightning, a jet fighter, or bombs going off? I'm like, never in my life would I ever have to think that. It's crazy. But I could lay there and then go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. So if you're a child of God, you're not a slave to fear.
I can lie down and sleep in peace, for you, Lord, are my rock and my defender. That's
absolutely.
Over and over again. Like we say those words, and yet it's in situations like this when he really proves himself over and over again. And that's the testimony of God, and he's never failed his people. And I think that's true for all of us, but especially true now. And thank you for your strength. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for being there and faithful in this crazy and unexpected situation. None of this takes God by surprise. And so he has you there for a purpose. You know that, and you're living that out. So thank you so much. I love you guys. Thank you for being willing to talk with us today. Do you know at this point, obviously, plans are up in the air, but do you know when you might be able to make your way back?
Yeah. Right now our scheduled flights, I'm not going to say when they are per se, just for security purposes.
Right.
But we do have scheduled flights, and they are as scheduled.
Okay.
There are, I think a lot of people are worried because the US have canceled all flights, but another God thing is that ours aren't via the US. They're an Israeli airline and they have not canceled flights. So as of now, we'll be going
everything's on time.
Okay. Yeah. So. That is amazing. You guys can write a book at the end of all of this, and we'll we'll have you back. We'll talk about the book.
Will be nice to be back.
I'm so grateful to get the chance to talk to you, and for what God is doing through you. So we're continuing to pray for you personally, and for your group, for the nation of Israel, for all the people caught up in this. This is a devil's scheme, right? This is what he's trying to do. He's trying to destroy, and we know that he does not win. He also knows this, but he's going to try to cause as much trouble as he can. And God's not going to let that happen. So the victory is already won. So thank you, and God bless you.
Yes, we love you. Hope to see you soon.
Covered in our prayers. Matt and Miranda, live from Israel, and pray for them as well. I invite you to continue to pray for Israel, as I know you are, because I'm hearing from you, and that's something that's dearly on your heart as well. It is no accident that it's happening here and now. As we always say, we were made for just such a time as this. It's just, we don't always know exactly what that looks like, but that's where the faith comes in. And God does. And he's writing this story. He's inviting us to be a part of it. And overall, Christ wins. Christ is victorious. He is victorious over death. And so why should we fear? What can we, nobody can do anything to make us afraid. Reminding ourselves of that today. So whatever you face today, remember, God is in control. Christ has already won, and he will never leave you. You are not alone. And until next time, this is Faith Works Live. We have a mission, so let's be about it, to love God, to serve people, and to live free.